call of Christ. Now, how is this midnight call that is made for the virgins, those who have trimmed their lamps and those who have not, how is this relevant to today? And how is it connected to 1776? You're going to find out today. I welcome you all. Thank you for coming to the live chat and for spending a little bit of time. Do me a favor and tell your friends. Hit the like button. Do what you gotta do. Because the clock is ticking, people. Look at the rabbit. You know Alice. She went down the rabbit hole. And we're about to go down the rabbit hole too. And why don't we start with the picture-perfect representation of Alice at the Grammy Awards, which was Taylor Swift wearing that white dress and that necklace that had that specific watch that she had set to midnight. How interesting is that? You know what else is weird? I put a post out on X about this, and guess what happened? It ended up in Newsweek. How about them apples? Can you believe that this meatball right here is in Newsweek magazine? I've arrived. It's 2024. I said that this was going to be a very strange year for all of us. I'm hoping that it becomes something where I can reach more people. Encourage more people. People are stressed out. They're scared. They're freaking out. And I gotta tell you something. I got really good news to share. Really good news to share. I feel like it. This is what I do. If you're new to the channel, what I do is I take the things that are happening in the world, all these news stories, and I find a relevance to it in Scripture. Today we got a story to tell about an old king named Hezekiah who got some bad news, said, "Oh, you're going to die," and ended up doing a couple of things. He ended up repenting of how terrible he was, and he just wanted a little bit more time, and he got a little bit more time. Got the clock to go back 10 steps, the shadow of the sun to move back 10 steps. 10, you're going to find, is a very significant number in this program, but let's stick with Taylor Swift. So at the Grammys, which I made a point of pointing out that this was her, her 13th award that she had gotten. She had gotten 13 awards. That was her 13th of all times. It was a big accomplishment, and she gave a speech, and I shared that speech on X. In that post, I wrote, as Newsweek quoted, "How gigged am I, right? I wish it meant more than just like, oh yeah, this is Taylor Swift's necklaces. This detail is causing people to go kooky, raising eyebrows." That was the whole article. And they used me as an example as to why. Because of course I said, oh, it looks like it's set to midnight. I didn't dig into it completely. It was just my first thought. I thought, oh, it's the Doomsday Clock. Oh, but there's so much more to that necklace and the story behind it. And the fact that I ended up in Newsweek, I believe is pretty important. I also believe it's pretty important that we're going to be talking about the King's news, which I said was going to come exactly 9 months before it came. This is going to be a fun one, people. I hope you're buckled up. So, of course, Taylor goes out, she gives the speech, and then I wrote amazingly because we had just been talking about the Super Bowl, right? I did my live Super Bowl prediction show based on the story. Brock Purdy, the quarterback with the number 13. Taylor Swift, who's just in love with that number 13. This was her 13th Grammy that she had won. She won 14 that night. She won Album of the Year. Album of the Year for an album called Midnight. How about that? Very interesting. So, the Super Bowl, which we pointed out, was 58. 5 plus 8 is 13. The fact that there are 13 signs in the zodiac now, which has to do with Ophiuchus. Very interesting stuff. Backstage, Taylor was freaking out. Because she was in between going out there, and she's like, is the clock set right? Do you have the clock set my clock? She was so worried about her clock. And then her assistant said, it's set, it's perfect, It's set to midnight. Do you know what midnight is? Midnight's very, very, very significant. Terrible Truth knows. He's one of, or she's one of God's champions. I'm one of their favorite meatballs. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. And if you don't mind, while you're here, hit the like button, will you? It helps people to come and watch the show. So we got 13 in the news pretty much everywhere you go. I wrote, and Newsweek quoted, that the necklace, the coincidence of the number 13 writing Taylor Swift wins Best Pop Vocal Album reminds her and reminds everyone it's her 13th Grammy. Her Super Bowl appearance will be her 13th appearance. 13 is obviously her favorite number. And her necklace on the red carpet that was mirrored, if you look at the stage, it looks like an 8, mirrored the Doomsday Clock, 1 minute to midnight. You know who else's clock was set to midnight towards the end of the book? It's the Rabbit. Starts off at 5, but then as Alice in Wonderland progresses, by the end, that clock, you're late for a very important date, the Mad Hatter and all of this stuff. Midnight. Strange. Midnight. But that's not all that's strange. It gets a lot stranger. Do you know that there are some asteroids that are coming? There are 8 of them. 8 Taylor Swift asteroids passed on Earth yesterday, passed by Earth. I found it interesting. I wanted to share it. The fact that everything's Taylor Swift is just pretty insane to me. You know Heliofant, that channel there, they have a video. It's very, if you're in this niche world of like looking at stuff a little different, the speculative world, if you're a theorist, if you will, if you look into things, you'll know that this famous movie from years ago called I, Pet Goat 2, it was, yesterday, Heliofant, the company that created this, they had gotten rid of all their videos for a time. They reposted it. Now, how do I know this? How did I find this out? That they reposted it just yesterday? Because what ended up happening was I was doing research for the show and I was trying to use that in regards to Taylor Swift. And guess what happens? That's when I found it out. That's strange timing that Heliofant just re-uploaded I, Pet Goat 2. Strange, the timing of all this. It just seems to be very suspect. Now, Taylor Swift, she started talking about her new album that's going to come out. You know when it's coming out? It's coming out around the same time that a man named Paul Revere, when he rode his horse, said the red coats are coming. The red coats are coming. Who's got a red hat? The red hats are coming. The red hats are coming. The red coats are coming. He made that midnight call. There was a battle called Concord and Lexington, which has to do with 1776. 1776, which I've been calling and talking about on the program for a long time. And here we are, and Taylor Swift's wearing a Concord watch. Just the timing of all this is very interesting. It makes me think that perhaps, there is more to the story than what we're being told. It makes me think that perhaps we need to dig a little bit deeper. We need to dig a lot deeper. So last night at the Grammys, billionaire artist Taylor Swift wore a choker made by jeweler Lorraine Schwartz that was adorned with a small watch with diamonds around. Throughout the evening, as she accepted 2 awards, including Album of the Year for her album Midnights. Midnights. That's interesting. So you understand why it was set to midnight. But midnight was the call of poor Revere. Midnight is the call of Christ. Midnight is the call of other things as well, as you're going to see. And this ties into vampires and King Charles. How cool is that, right? Do me a favor. We got a lot of people watching already. Smash the like. Tell people about the channel. Share it around. I appreciate it. Her new album, by the way, if you're a Taylor Swiftie, is called Tortured Poets Department. And its release date, April 19th, is coming out. It already has a bunch of weird speculation that is surrounding it. Surrounding it in a way, I must say, that is quite freaky. You know what I mean? Very freaky. This show is freaky. Listen, I'm so overwhelmed with things that are happening now. There's some news that's out today. There's news that was out yesterday. All of these things, they're coming so quick. They're connected to shows I did. I have so many shows lined up already. I can't keep up. Because I want to give you all something really good. And it's getting a little difficult to keep up. You know, when a pregnant woman's about to give birth, what happens? She gets these labor pains. Towards when she's about to burst, the pains are coming like this. That's the way these shows are coming. With the mud floods, which, by the way, I told people that I had a dream about mud floods coming to California. We're going to talk about this in shows to come. I can't get distracted. I got to stay on course because the midnight call has come. Taylor Swift asking her stylist to change the choker. Make sure the midnight second hand is on the clock. Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. And of course, you know from the channel, you know I'm all about those things of the kingdom of heaven. At midnight there was a cry. Behold, the bridegroom comes. Go you out and meet him. This is where it gets weird. I've been talking about a great judgment. It's the separation. It's the goats and the sheep, the wheat and the tares, and it happens at the end. We got two sets of cicadas that are meeting at the exact same place around the exact same time as the Great American Eclipse. One is 13 years. One is 17 years. These numbers are very significant. The number 13, synonymous, by the way, with rebellion. But it was also 13 years. Rhonda Peterson, thank you very much for the super chat. It was also 13 years, Rhonda Peterson, that it took for Solomon's castle to be made. 13 years. If you had the 12 disciples, you had Jesus. Jesus would be number 13. Remember a while ago I said that this 1,000-year reign of Christ, some will go into captivity, some will go into liberty. This is the day. The midnight call is being called. And who's going to be revealed? You going to be a vampire? Like that awesome series, by the way. It is really an awesome series where they compare Jesus to a vampire. That's right. The priest, he basically gets his whole congregation to worship a vampire and uses scripture to back it up because Jesus said things like, you know, you drink my blood and you eat my flesh, right? There's going to be two different ways of looking at things. Two different sets of cicadas. Two different. There's the earthy and then there's the heavenly. And we're entering a time of judgment like never before. This is the 1,000-year reign of Christ. It's also the 1,000 years that the devil's released, I believe. This was something that hit me just recently. I thought it was very interesting because we always separate the two. But at the time of judgment, we may need something like that. We may need, because people they don't really believe in God. Most of the people that are, you know, that won't watch this channel, they may go to church and everything else, but they don't really believe that this stuff could be happening. And yet, here we are time and time again. Hey, guess what? I told you it would be the last coronation. Hey, guess what? I told you that we would have the issue with the king that we're having now. And guess what? All these videos I did, they line up to a specific date. This is something that I've put out here for years so that it would be like, I don't know what I'm talking about. But maybe, because I want to serve God, I want to do things that are right. Maybe I'm being inspired. Maybe you're being inspired. Maybe we are witnesses. Got these numbers, 1111, 22. This is something that on the channel, if you're new, we've been talking about, and we find this happening and coming up again and again and again. Two sets of people. Two sets. Wheat, tares, goats, sheep, right? Who's going into captivity? Who's going into liberty? So the midnight call goes out for both. That's midnight mass. It's all about the vampires. And at the same time, the cry for Christ. These things that we are looking at right now, these things that are happening in the news right now, they may seem like, oh, it's not that important. Oh, I think you're stretching. You're not really, there's nothing really to this here. But yet I'm telling you, there is more to this story. There is something going on. There's something going on. And as you're going to see, you're either with the vampires or you're with the kingdom of heaven. You're either with the children of the night, of the darkness, or the children of the light of the sun. The Son of God, that is. He goes by many names, Yahshua being the name that I know. Most of you know him as Jesus, but really it is a picture of the Spirit of the living God, the Comforter, the Holy Spirit of God that is poured out on all man. Adam means man. There's the first Adam, who's ignorant, who brings death into the world, eats of the tree, and is cursed to die. And then there's the last Adam, who's a shepherd, who brings light into the world and brings life. The scriptures say that they're two individuals. This is where we get the rapture teaching from. Two people. One that is earthy, one that is heavenly. One is taken and one is left. And that word taken means one is born again. And that word left is one is cast off. There's going to come a time when you're going to get rid of your ego nature and you're going to follow the Spirit of the living God, which is love, peace, joy, unity, truth. This is the day we're in. This is why I tell you not to worry. In the midst of the storm, you got nothing to worry about. Such upheaval. Such change is coming. I see it happening. They're calling Tucker Carlson independent media. Russell Brand saying, oh, this is a victory for independent media. I said, independent media? This is controlled media usurping independent media and calling it independent. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying God's in charge of it all. But we have to have eyes that see and ears that hear. The question is, who's going to hear the midnight call? That's why her clock was set to midnight. That's why we're talking about 13 and the clock being set to midnight. I'm in Newsweek. It's very strange. The call has been made. Also to the vampires. If you know who Olivia Rodrigo is, let me play this. Yeah, this is like, I'm gonna mute it though, so you just, because I don't want to get hit with it. So she's like this sweet girl at the 66 Grammy Awards, a sweet girl. And what's she doing? What's she doing? Singing her song about vampires, and she's getting covered with blood rituals. It's a mess. Whole thing is a mess. As she's singing, blood's dripping down, it's coming all over her face, and she's rubbing it into her face, and all this craziness. It would not be a 66 Grammy without the crazy rituals. Am I correct? You got to tell me in a live chat. You got to tell me in the comments section if you think that these rituals of the vampires, nothing but vampires everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. Hey, guess what? Guess who else is considered to be a vampire? Who's literally directly linked to the vampire of vampires, Vlad the Impaler. That's right, King Charles. And the whole royal family. There's a lot of weird stuff about them. Right? They weren't allowed to eat garlic. There's a lot of weird stuff about the royal family. I'm not saying they're vampires. Of course, I wouldn't know this. A vampire probably wouldn't have a problem with what he's having right now. He's diagnosed with cancer. It's a terrible thing, especially because he has children and everything else. And, his country and the world count on him with his 10 steps to making sure everybody's eating bugs. I'm not saying I make jokes. This is a channel that jokes as well. So don't take anything I say seriously. But I did say 9 months ago from the actual news that this would be the last coronation. And if you take a look at the thumbnail, you'll see right behind King Charles is a Grim Reaper. And why did I put that Grim Reaper behind King Charles in so many thumbnails? Because I knew that he wasn't going to last long. You know, it was like I had a feeling. Just had a feeling. I had a vibe. He was coronated on an eclipse on May 6th on Jacob's pillow, supposedly the stone of scone. Supposedly, which, by the way, had an inscription that dates back to Christ on it. That was discovered. Everything is pointing to the return of Christ, the manifestation of Christ. Everything is pointing to that midnight call. I think it has something to do with the eclipse. And I think it is good news. And I used to be worried about like meteors and terrible things happening. Used to be worried about that. I think I'm getting inspired to share something else. I'm going to put out something else, like Jonah back in the day. You're going to find these eclipses are attached to Jonah. And you're going to find that I did shows about Jonah and the eclipse, which is, it defies reason. I didn't even put it out on X yet because I don't want anybody to grab it and leap on it and then, take it because I want to share it from my heart. But this call has gone out. This midnight call has gone out, and it is, it's going to really, it's going to get people to turn their heads. His cancer diagnosis is provoking reactions everywhere. In Kate Middleton, this is William's wife, who it seems like a lot of people in the news are saying that he's going to probably, abdicate his throne. He's going to leave his throne. He's going to hand it off to William because, just talk about this a little while ago because he had an enlarged prostate, which I thought was interesting. Because you think of an enlarged prostate, you think of something that's like blown up like a boil. I couldn't help but think of King Hezekiah and his boil because they compared King Hezekiah to someone who probably had, some type of a cancer or an abscess, if you will. Very strange. But the fact that I called this, if you take a look at it, the last coronation, the last one, I even talked about it. Let me just play this for you so that you know that I'm not making up stories. Get rid of this. And I'm just going to play this. And ironically, if you look at the time code where it starts at, that's where it starts. 111. All right, just take a listen. Make sure I have the audio up. That you're going to find. And it ends at 11:11. I'm done. So, but one of the things, of course, that I posted on Twitter recently was about the coronation, which took place. And Nicola on Twitter posted out that it was 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days from the Queen's funeral. So I was like, well, of course, that's something that I wouldn't have. So I retweeted his tweet. And of course, some people are like, that's kind of silly because we don't judge things that way. It would be more like 7 months and whatever. But I'm like, but hang on a second. It is 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days. That's quite peculiar. It's also quite peculiar that the horse got spooked and of course that there was a Grim Reaper. All it is happening at the same day that a sorcerer wins the Kentucky Derby with that magic number 8. The magic number 8, the magic 8 ball. Which funny because mystical mind on Twitter shared a picture of my tweet about Mage the Sorcerer MAGA winning, and then Elon's tweet, which said, feeling nostalgic, and he had like a meme of like somebody shaking the magic 8 ball. A lot of magic going on. Magic 8. A lot of strangeness going on. A lot of weird stuff going on. A lot of weird stuff connected to that coronation. The eclipse, the horse being spooked, the Grim Reaper showing up. I did video after video about this. You can go back and you can probably check them out, but there's something going on. And it was like so clear to me back then. almost as clear to me as it was that there's something spooky going on with the royal family. Like when Kate came out and showed everybody their baby for the first time. How she wore the dress that Mia Farrow wore in Rosemary's Baby. That's a little bit suspect, right? That's a little strange. You don't want to you don't want to feed into the people that say things like, oh, their child's going to be like the Antichrist. You don't want to feed into that. And their designer's like, hey, wear this dress. This will be nice. Wear this one. And then for the royal portrait, which made like major news because it's so important, they couldn't wait to release it. They're like, yeah, why don't you wear the vampire's wife dress? What's up with these people? Can someone tell me what's up with these people? What's strange about this is, Kate, she just had stomach surgery. So there was rumors going around she was in some kind of a coma. Strange. I want to play this for you because I think it's funny. I do these little, if you're new to the channel, that's one of the reasons I want to share this too. But it also gives you a little more insight into the stuff with William and the stuff with Kate. I do these little goofy little skits where I'll have characters showing up, and it's a way to get around certain things and to say certain things. But just take a listen to this.
Proof Prince is a vampire. Blah, blah, I want to suck your blood. That kind of vampire, I'm telling you. What proof? In portrait, Kate Middletown. What? Never mind. Kate Middletown is wearing the vampire's wife's dress. The vampire's wife's dress! This one! It is proof! It is proof that he must be a vampire!
Unfortunately, we got these commercials you gotta zip through. So I'm gonna mute the commercial, play it. I didn't expect this to happen. Sorry about that. Strange commercial. Yeah, I mean, it's a strange thing that we have all of this stuff happening. It's let me just skip this and get back to it.
Because she wore a dress. That's your proof. She wore a green dress, like the green horse of the apocalypse. Okay. All right. Think about it. It is the dress worn by the wife of the vampire. It is the vampire's wife's dress that she wore. Or maybe it's just a clothing line that she likes, and it's the same dress that she wore when she went to Ireland in 2020. I know about the dress. I think to myself, I say, self, perhaps it is cry for help. She is asking for our help. Maybe not cry for help. Maybe she is telling everyone to our faces as a joke, kind of like, ha ha ha, I am married to a vampire. That is what you say on the show. This, my friends, is totally sucks.
Sus.
No, sucks, because vampires, they suck the blood. I want to suck your blood, blah, blah. That is the whole thing. Come on, totally sucks.
Yeah, no, listen, I gotta tell you, Vlad. You need a little bit more than that to go on before I do a show. That's right. You need a little more. You need a little more research there, pal.
Oh, I see. You are suspect of my research abilities. Well, what if I told you that she wore Mia Farrow's dress from that movie with the Satan baby, Rosemary's Baby. Well, I'd say she was probably wearing it like at a costume party. Perhaps, maybe she's into the horror stuff. Costume party. That's what I'd say. But she wore it the day the baby was born. You're kidding me. The day that she introduced her son, Prince Louis, to the world, she was wearing the same dress as Mia Farrow in Rosemary's Baby. Rosemary's Baby? The horror film about the lady who, they drug and then the cult brings down, the devil comes, takes advantage of her, and she gets pregnant with the devil's baby, Satan's child. You're talking about that movie, the Rosemary with Mia Farrow. Yeah, that movie. She was wearing that dress? Now you are catching on, my friend. Identical. Identical? According to Harper's Bazaar, of course. Oh, well, Harper's Bazaar. Yeah, that is weird. That is weird. Harper's Bazaars. That solves it. Perhaps it is a cry for help, or coincidence. Perhaps they are telling us to our face to prepare. Or coincidence. Where is your garlic? Why? Because of course I want to make you nice sauce for dinner, you meatball. It's like for the vampires. They do not like the garlic. What is wrong with you? All right. You could use some of my garlic powder. You put it in your hand, you blow it in their eyes, and they can't see anymore. I'm going back to bed.
I got to tell you something. I really enjoy those skits. I enjoy doing that because it's, comedy is a great way to teach people. So, I hope that I can make you laugh and share some things that are horrifying at the same exact time. There's a connection. Seems like there's a connection. Got this midnight call that's coming out. But there's a connection to a biblical story with King Charles right now. And it's what I was led to kind of share with all of you. So I don't want anybody to get too freaked out. What I want you to do, I want you to hit the like button. I want you to leave me a comment. I want you to share the channel around so more people come. You can X out a chat if you're in the live chat right now. Thank you for the super chats. I appreciate it. And let's get this going, because this is where it gets really amazing. So I put a post out on X, and it's just a little bit of a poem. And the poem I said, the king whose tunnel did bring water to Shiloh's pool had a wishy-washy devotion and rule. He relied on two masons to siphon water away from the enemy with their tools. When told he could die, he turned to the wall to repent of his lies, and God heard his cries, and a backward shadow grew. Now, there is this king. His name is Hezekiah, and he's known really for a couple of stories. One of the stories is connected to today's events, a tunnel. He builds a tunnel. He builds a tunnel after he's given a little more time to live. One of the prophets, I believe it was Isaiah, comes to him and says, look, I got bad news for you. You're going to die. And what Hezekiah did was, instead of lashing out, he turned to the wall and he began to cry and he began to weep and he asked for more time. Prophet comes back to him and says, you got it. And the king's like, you got to tell me how I know that I got more time. Like, how do I know? He says, okay, what do you want? You want the shadow on stairs to go forward 10? Or do you want the shadow on the stairs to go back 10? You want 10 more years, if you will? Something like that. That's basically the idea. Hezekiah says it's an easy thing for the shadow to lengthen 10 steps. Rather let the shadow go back 10 steps. It's easy for a shadow to go one way. Let the shadow come back another way. You see how this has to do with the eclipse? It's very strange. Easy for the shadow to go one way. Let it go back another way. And that's what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with a shadow that we're about to witness, all of us, on April 8th, the Great American Eclipse. Wait till my show on the Great American Eclipse. I can't tell you how excited I am to share it. Because I've been stressed out about our future. And the more I seek and pray, and I believe I have a little bit of peace of mind on this. I believe you will too. Well, the king gets this terrible news. At the same time, he's getting this terrible news. He's also saying, I'll abdicate my throne in about 10 years. 10. King Charles, he's known for the number 10. His 10 principles on architecture, for one. Yeah, his 10 climate goals, the actions we must take. 10. It's a big number for Mr. King Charles. Mr. Pudgy Fingers. You ever see his hands? Ho, he got hands. He got balloon hands. He got balloon hands. Look up a picture of him and his hands. You tell me I'm not joking. He got balloon hands. Very strange. The king is also in regular contact with number 10 after he gets this news with the prime minister. Now, who here in the live chat remembers the numbers that I like to talk about the most? It's the numbers 11, the numbers 1111, the numbers 22, the numbers 1122, or 2211. In that order, because of course they're connected to important things. Like the number 22 is it's the X. It's called the Tav. It's a picture of Christ, if you will. And the 11 in Strong's has to do with duality and destruction that's coming. But the reason why I wear this shirt, I'm a witness, Revelation 11:11, it's about the witnesses of God, the people that they're praying to God, they're asking God for help, and in the end, what happens is God reveals things. He says, this is what's going to probably happen. Go tell them this. And then we do it. We witness. This is what I see when I'm looking at all of the evidence. This is what I'm witnessing here. So now I'm going to witness to you and tell you that you should put your faith in God. You should pray to God. It's like, because none of these things. The fact that I did that video 9 months and I said it's the last coronation, and there probably won't be, by the way, a coronation for Prince Charles. You know why? Because Margaret just abdicated the throne too. Margaret in Denmark. Whenever I hear the place called Denmark, I think of Hamlet. The play's the thing, wherein we catch the conscience of the king. The king who right now probably wants the shadow to go back about 10. Probably wants that to happen. Do you know in 2 Kings 20:20, that's 2:2, it speaks of Hezekiah building a tunnel. And the rest of the acts of Hezekiah and all his might, how he made the pool, which is called Siloam's pool, the pool which Rome covered up with sewage pipes and sewage, poop, put poop on top of it and buried it. Siloam's pool, the place where you would go and you would wash, and then you would make the journey up to the temple. It was like a thing. You come to that pool, you clean yourself, you prepare yourself to go visit the Lord. Rome's like, they covered that place up. That was the place where Jesus healed the man who was blind. He put mud in his eyes. Anybody got mud in their eyes? In California, they got a lot of mud right now in their eyes. But in that pool, that mud is washed away. Now that pool was rediscovered when a sewer main broke, and it's been excavated. They've been building this pool which was fed by a tunnel that was built by a king named Hezekiah. Hezekiah, who was guilty in front of the Lord, who was told he was going to die and repented to the Lord. Lord gave him a little more time. And then an enemy, a great enemy, was coming against him. And because he repented, he ends up getting favor with God, and they stopped the water. The water was feeding out into the fields, and he knew that. Guess who the king was that was coming, by the way? It was Babylon. Babylon the Great was coming against. Shh. Scary, scary times, scary days. So they cut off the water because they were worried that they would just camp and they would have water, they would have food, they would have whatever they want. But they stopped the water up, and they had the water go through this tunnel system that would feed into this pool. It was a way God protected them from the enemy in a time after the king was pronounced to have something probably like cancer. It's an interesting connection. You know, what's more interesting is the fact that how this tunnel system was built was because of masons. That's right, 2 stonemasons. What they did was they put either side of the area. I think it was Jerusalem. I'm not sure. Israel somewhere. And they'd just start digging to each other. And the 2 of them would come towards each other. And then when they got close, their voices, they heard each other. And that's how they dug through. And this is a literal place that exists right now. If you go to Israel, you can actually see it. You can go and you can visit it. It's the Gishon Springs. And it's no wonder that you have Hezekiah and the shadow is such a big deal. And you have Prince Harry in the news right now about his new book that's about to cast a shadow over already a dark family reunion. Turns out they all got together. You know, they were trying to make amends or whatever. And there's still some big time issues with all of them. Very big time issues going on. And if you look at the thumbnail in the top right-hand corner, it says the new reign begins. That was back in 2022. This was right before the Queen passes. And that place right there with the pyramid, you'll see the pyramid. And that's their retreat. I think it's called Balmore or something like that. There are pictures of really bad people visiting there, but it's not confirmed. But Hezekiah, God gives him a little more time. And then the enemy comes, and these masons, they build this tunnel system. And it's quite a feat. Let me show it to you. I can actually show it to you because I found footage of it. And I believe I posted it to X, 22-second video. Breadcrumb, Hezekiah's tunnel. It's being restored right now. This is where the mud is washed away. Let me just make sure I'll talk through it. And it's about 70 centimeters. You can walk through. The water just flows through. This is where David's son Solomon was anointed. Solomon, let me just pause that for a second. Solomon, who, by the way, his kingdom was built in 13 years. You see, when I think of this number 13, I don't look at it just a negative way. I don't think of just Nimrod who built the tower. We're going to talk about the tower in a second. But these tunnels, they created a passageway. And you see, this is now excavated. It used to be filled with water. It's going to be again. It's going to be again. This is where they believe the blind man was healed. In the pool of Siloam. Go and bathe in the pool of Siloam. So the blind man went and washed, and he came back seeing. It's a picture. It's a picture. You got mud in your eye. You got mud in your eye. You need it out. You need it out of your eyes. It's a wake-up call. God is waking us up. It's the midnight call. At midnight, when you sleep, you probably got sleep in the corners of your eye. I go to bed early. Dan goes to bed early. She gets up at 3:30. I get up like 5:30, but we go to bed early. At midnight, someone wakes me up at midnight. I got the sleep in my eye too. At the midnight call, it may, as Watchmen will say, thank you for the super chat, can freak a person out. Can freak a person out. But we shouldn't be freaked out. We should be excited. And why? Well, do you remember I got a letter in the mail? I think it was January 5th. I put a post out about this. I said 9/11 because I've been talking about 9/11 a lot. You know, the stadium, the Allegiant Stadium, the Death Star, the New Republic, you know, the Empire, the Death Star. Its address is 88911. It's wild, right? But we've been talking about 911 a lot, so I said I got home from the gym and I got a letter stamped, never forget 911. From the tunnel to the towers foundation. 111 is a huge number, thanks to Lauren Sawyer for the super chat. 111, you're going to find, is all over this show as we continue. So I got this letter. It says, you know, it was from this organization, from the tunnels to the towers, and I kind of forgot about it. I posted it out there, and then I was kind of blown away because we had the Tower 22 issue. And we had the tunnels issue. Remember the tunnels that they were talking about with the with all of the, I don't know how to say it. In New York with all on there, they weren't rabbis. What do they call? Tell me in the live chat. You know, they were very devout religious men and all of these towers, and they made a big deal out of these tunnels. And at the same time that they were making a big deal out of these tunnels, we had issues with the towers, Tower 22, and the 3 that passed away, the 3 soldiers. We had the 3 chief fans that passed away too. And now we got news of 3 judges, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So I got this and I said to everybody, I said, it's just getting weirder because it was addressed and it was like a story that they were using was about a man named Israel. So, I mean, that alone really kind of freaked me out because I thought to myself, Israel, that's my name, right? That's the name that the Lord gave me. How is it possible that I get this kooky letter? I bet you we're going to start seeing and hearing about tunnels and towers. I said that in like my next video. Now, just a couple of days ago, I was at the gym, not even thinking about tunnels and towers. And then this guy, if you take a look to the right, you'll see that's a guy at the gym. He allowed me to take that picture. I asked him. I said, the Lord reminded me of this random letter I got from the tunnel to the tower. This man at the gym had the shirt and it hit me. The tunnel fiasco in New York and the attack on the towers. Tunnels in a tower. Tunnels in a tower. Hezekiah has a tunnel, saves people. Nimrod has a tower, and the tower falls. If you're going to build the tower, and you're going to try to be like God, you're not going to succeed. If you're going to dig for something to get from one place to another, perhaps you may. Tunnels to the tower. Do you know that these two, it's like all over the news? Rolling Stone, what are the odds? February 4th, from war zones to TikTok hobbyists, we've developed a curious fear of what lies under the surface. Under a veil is a bride. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that's hidden in a field. Not above the field. It is hidden in the field. You got to dig for the field. You got to dig into the field. You got to look for the treasure. 2024, deeper underground, it's the year of the tunnel. Do you know that at the UN in Geneva, they placed a replica of a tunnel in front of them? Project Iceworm's network of sub-zero tunnels. I was just sent that. Oh my goodness, who sent that to me? I didn't really get a chance to really to dig deep into that. But I'll tell you one thing. You got tunnels everywhere. Tunnels everywhere. But not just that. We got towers everywhere too. There was like news yesterday that there was like a threat. Somebody said that they had something that could go kablooey at a tower, the bell tower. Tunnels and towers. Tunnels and towers. Then you got the Kansas City 3. If you look at the bottom left-hand corner, that was a clip from that's from the donut. I was actually just over. I was about to go live and I saw the donut was live. I'm like, I can't go live yet. You know what? I'm gonna try to call him, but I think he's doing something right now. But he pointed out the fact that there was 3 and it was Tower 22, and he thought, oh, it's Skull and Bones. Tunnels and towers, Carrie. Thank you for the super chat. Tunnels and towers everywhere you go. And then we got what? We got Trump. And we got the news that just came out about a 3-judge panel that has just ruled that Donald Trump, that he is not immune. That they're saying that he's immune, but he's not. But let me tell you something. Is that going to stick? Is that going to stick? Supposedly there was a lot of stuff in there that was really good for him too. So the question becomes, are we talking about something that's not good or something that is good? So we got the 3 chiefs. Now we got the 3 judges. We got the 3 soldiers. From a courtroom, a game room, a war room. They walk into a bar and the bartender says, why the symbolism? I put that out because I wanted to see if any of you could figure this out. I can't tell everybody. So what I do, that's why you should follow me on X, Jacob Israel 71. What I do is I'll share little things and I'll give you a clue and I want you to look into it because it's fun to discover things. It's fun to see beyond the veil. It's fun to dig a tunnel, isn't it? When it snows, what do? One side, I'll dig one side, you dig the other. We'll meet in the middle. That's the idea. That's what Hezekiah was doing. And it saved them for the time being. We got 3 everywhere you look. Robert Kennedy putting out this, there's a 3-way dead heat. Robert Kennedy. Who, by the way, this is a true story. I recently was like, well, maybe it's going to go to him. Maybe, I was thinking, like, I was trying to see I was like, Lord, can you show me? Because, it's like I said, I'm still so on the fence with the Trumpster, right? Still so on the fence. It's like, could it go in a different direction? I've been saying the Trumpster for so long. Could it go in a different direction? And I start like looking into it. And Kennedy puts out a video, which if you follow me on X, you probably knows. He puts out a video where he says he catches a rattlesnake with his hands. Really? And I was so blown away. I took that and I shared it and I was like, oh, this is the sign I'm looking for. I said, oh, maybe there's, Kennedy, he's coming. Maybe this is, maybe just the fact that he takes off his shirt and he does flips and he does push-ups and, maybe he's not ego driven. That's usually what we do. When we get older, you want to prove to everybody that you're not aging and dying. Like Hezekiah, like just give me a couple more years. But he pretends to catch a rattlesnake. You got to check this out. I did a short. By the way, this is my YouTube channel, Jacob Israel. Okay, if you go to youtube.com/Jacob Israel, that's it. You'll find me. Okay, and there are categories. Like if you go to home, you'll see this is the latest. This is the video that's live right now. You go to videos, all the videos. My videos are produced videos, so they have sound effects and everything else. My lives are just like this, and of course, I do these shorts. Just like this one. I want to play this one for you, okay? So just take a listen. Is anyone honest today? How about a presidential candidate? How about Robert Kennedy Jr., who so many people, they have, some hope for? He seems like a bright, shining star, the Kennedy legacy and everything else. Well, he put out a video on X where it seems like he caught a rattlesnake with his bare hands. It's like stories about him. He used to do this when he was a child. A rattlesnake. So he goes and he catches it. And I was like, oh, this is such a great sign. Turns out Nicholas reached out to me and said, hey, play it in reverse. He faked it. So I went back and I scrubbed and I played it in reverse. He never caught the snake, or maybe he did off camera, but it was reenacted. He had the snake in his hand and he let it go, and he pretended that he caught it. And he says, I'm going to do this to the snakes in Congress. So I said, what does that mean? You're going to bring snakes into Congress and let them go?
The snake.
Why did he lie? Does anybody tell the truth today? You got to tell me in the comment section. Is anyone honest today?
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
How about a presidential...
I don't know if that bothered you as much as it bothered me, but it bummed me out. It bummed me out. Because here I was thinking, it's like, why would you do that? You know, you got to think, first of all, you got to think, he's running for president, right? Do you want your president to be, you know, on the road trying to prove to everybody what a man's man he is and grabbing rattlesnakes, right? Especially if you put your vote and everything else. You want him to be reckless. You get bit by a rattlesnake. He was probably milked, you know? And he got community noted. It took him like 24 hours. I posted stuff. I said, oh, you know, a couple other people posted stuff. He didn't say anything. But once there was a community note saying the video is reversed, and then he said, oh, of course it's reversed. Haven't you ever heard of, he said something like it was like a mixtape or something. Haven't you ever heard of things being, you know? He presented it like he was a hero who grabbed the rattlesnake. The snake. I put Trump in there. Three-way tie. 3 kings. 3 chiefs. 3 soldiers. There's another group of 3 that the scriptures talk about. It's the devil, the false prophet, and the Antichrist. Now, I'm not saying that these men are that, but I'm saying that these 3, there's a significant reason why it's something that we should consider. From the tunnel to the tower, right? Well, guess what? The tower seems to be falling. The number 13 is very significant, right? Because the 13th generation was Nimrod. Nimrod was the one who rebelled against God, the leader of Babel, and he built the Tower of Babel. Here, Hezekiah's story still fits. And at the same time, as I'm putting this show together, I say to myself, I bet you that tower is in the news. Which, by the way, did you know? I was sent this as well, and I'm blanking on who sent this to me as well. 1776 feet. That's the One World Trade. One World Trade Center. 1776 feet. That's pretty interesting. That's a tower. Today's news, a man who spent 8 years building what he wanted to be a Guinness Book of World Records, where he was building the Eiffel Tower with 700,000 matchsticks. Well, that tower came a-tumbling down because he used the wrong kind of match. I get the chills when I think about that. You're not winning. You built the tower. By the way, that word tower in scripture means altar, congregation, elevated platform. It's really legitimately an attempt for God to be man and to be worshiped as God. And we see this happening in the world. The tunnels in the tower. The tower that is that was attacked is 22. 2 different towers, 2 different tunnels. The world's version, heaven's version. One's going to be torn down. One is going to be raised up. There are 2. Matches are used to light a fire. The tower was built with the wrong kind of wood. Very interesting to me. Now listen, I want to read this. I want to read this in the book of 2 Kings. There's 22. 2 Kings 20. Maybe you can follow along with me if you want. In those days, Hezekiah became ill and was at the point of death. The prophet Isaiah, son of Amoz, went to him and said, "This is what the Lord says. Put your house in order, because you're going to die, and you will not recover." Hezekiah turned to face the wall, and he prayed to the Lord, "Remember, Lord, how I walked before you faithfully, wholehearted devotion, and I've done what is good in your eyes." Hezekiah wept bitterly. Let me, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read this so you can actually look at me too, because I know that sometimes people don't like looking at the text. But I think to myself, this is interesting, because I've been so concerned about what's coming. I'm like, Lord, can you give us some more time? Abraham, he said, when he knew Sodom was going to be destroyed, he said, Lord, if there were 50 people, would you spare them? If there were 40, would you spare them? How about 25? What about 5? I, on the show years ago, said, what about just me, Lord? And I can't be the best of them, because I am not. I always lead people to live a better life and to go to God. Don't let me be the milestone. Christ is the milestone. That's the marker. That's the mark of the high calling of Christ. That's what the midnight calls are all about. And the midnight call is here. So before Isaiah had left the middle court, the word of the Lord came to him. And he told him, he says, go back, tell Hezekiah, the ruler of my people. King Charles is a ruler of the people. This is what the Lord, the God of your father David, says. I've heard your prayer, I've seen your tears, and I will heal you. On the third day, from now you will go up to the temple of the Lord. I'll add 15 years to your life. 15 years. We're in 2024. 2024 plus 15 puts us to what? Like 2030. Is that right? No, that can't be right. It's 2040? What is it? Someone tell me in a live chat. I didn't know that math was going to be part of today's show. My point is, could you imagine if that's now? I'm going to give you another 15 years. I'm going to give you another 15 years. I'm going to add it to your life. I'm going to deliver you and this city from the king of Assyria. Because, see, God had already had it established that the king of Assyria was going to come on in and destroy them. Because they weren't doing right by the Lord. I'm going to deliver you. I will defend the city for my sake and for the sake of my servant David. He's doing it because David, before Hezekiah, was kind of faithful. I'll do it for David. I'm going to do it for you, you big baby. So Hezekiah, being, a king, he's like, how do I know it's true? How do I know it's true? What will be the sign that the Lord will give to me so that I know? And I'll go up to the temple on the third day from now. Isaiah said, this is the Lord's sign that he'll do as promised. Shall the shadow of the sun go back 10 steps, or shall it go forward 10 steps? Isaiah asked this question. It's a simple matter for the shadow to go forward 10 steps. That's what Hezekiah says. So have it go back. Have it go back. Could you imagine if the sun went back? What does that mean? Are we turning back time here? What are we doing? What does it mean symbolically? You have to tell me in the comment section, because I'm going to tell you what it is probably in the next show. Then the prophet Isaiah called to the Lord, and the Lord said, I'll make the shadow go back 10 steps. It is gone from the stairway of Ahaz. Now at that time, Marduk, this is, from Babylon, the king of Nebuchadnezzar, like Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon sent Hezekiah letters and gifts because he heard of the illness. It'd be like, the enemies of England sending King Charles, hey, I heard you're dying. Hezekiah received the envoys, showed them all that was in the storehouses, the silver, the gold, the spices, the fine oil, the armory, and everything that was found among his treasures. There was nothing in his palace or in his kingdom that Hezekiah didn't show him. Hezekiah showed him everything because he knew that God was going to protect them. So he's like, let me show you what I got. Then Isaiah the prophet went to the king and said, what did those men say and where were they from? He says, from a distant land, he replied. They came from Babylon. Prophet asks, What did they see in your palace? They saw everything in my palace, Hezekiah said, because I'm a braggart. He was being dumb. Should have kept his mouth shut. There's nothing among my treasuries that I did not show them. Isaiah said to Hezekiah, hear the word of the Lord. The time will surely come. Thank you for the super chat, Rebecca. I appreciate that. The time will surely come when everything in your palace and all your, this is important for today, everything in your palace, all your predecessors have stored up to this day. It's going to be carried off to Babylon. Nothing will be left. Some of your descendants, your own flesh and blood, will be born to you. They'll be taken away too. And they'll become eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. The king of Babylon is coming, people. Nebuchadnezzar's the king of Babylon. We know a world leader who I always say is connected to the king of Babylon. It's coming. The word of the Lord spoke. Hezekiah knew it to be good. Hezekiah replied, for he thought, will there not be peace and security in my lifetime? Peace and security. When you hear peace and security, what do you know is coming? Destruction. King of Babylon's coming. King of Babylon's coming. The word of the Lord you've spoken is good, he replied. But will there not be peace and security in my lifetime? As for the other events of Hezekiah's reign, all of his achievements, he made a pool and a tunnel by which he brought water into the city, and they're written in the annals of the king of the book of Judah. 2 Kings 2:22. King of Babylon's coming. The midnight call is here. All the enemies of God, they're going to be carried off into a distant land. Maybe 15 years from now. Maybe 10 years from now. Maybe next week. Who knows? But I know that if you and your Lord, you and your house serve the Lord like me and my house do, meaning that you're kind and you're generous and you will continue to watch this show and you will continue to be encouraged and inspired because it keeps adding up. Here we have a king that's sick. Here we have a king that I said would be the last coronation. Here we have a story of 3 kings, 3 chiefs, 3 soldiers. 13, 17, the cicadas, all these things coming together. It's exciting. And I hope that you can tell your friends how exciting it is by sharing the channel around. Getting yourself a copy of the novel, The Calling. It's on Amazon.com. Get yourself a copy today. Leave me a review. We have over thousands of 5-star reviews. Thanks to all of you. It's a very exciting day that we're in. If you want to get some of the merch, my next show, the 11/11, is going to be very, very prominent. So I'll probably wear this shirt again, but you can get all of the merch that goes to support the channel. I get a couple of bucks if you want to get God's Champion mug or any of this stuff. I save this for the end. It's helpful. Without you and without you on Patreon and without you who send in on PayPal, I know it's hard today and it's not a lot of people. But it's more than I need. That's what's amazing. You've all been such a blessing to me. But, do something that you're going to, bless the channel with and you're going to enjoy and make a statement. Get a Teach Me the Truth shirt, no matter what the cost. So when people see you, they read it and then they wonder, what is the truth? Get yourself I Am a Witness shirt. Tell people what it means. You can do that by going in the links of the description of the video. Make sure you're subscribed because people are always telling me we're getting unsubscribed. You want to call Donut, see if he can come on the show. I think that would be fun. Just for the heck of it, because it was nice to see him in his show. A lot of people watching him. He's doing such great work. Let's see if we can get in touch with him. I don't think he knows that I'm calling him either. Let's try one more time. We'll see if he answers. He may be in a live show himself. If you don't know who Alex is, Donut Factory, it's a great channel. You should check him out. He's a really sweet guy. He's got a great heart. I don't think he's going to answer. I think he's in the show. But anyway, go to his channel if you haven't yet and tell them Jacob said to say hi. I love all of you. Thank you very much. Dig for that gold. Dig for that gold and tear all your pride down. I love you, and I will talk to all of you soon. Bye-bye.